Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. On the program today, we thought we would kind of reach out to people, for anyone who has ever loved a dog or anyone who enjoys the simple wisdom of pets or children. Today we're going to be talking about a wonderful book called Conversations with Dog, which will stir your heart, as we talk with Jonathan Robinson, who's back on the show to talk about this inspirational novel about a dog named Happy, a golden retriever mix. He is clearly no ordinary dog, and one day her owner begins hearing her voice inside his head. With wit and wisdom, Happy begins to guide her owner through his midlife crisis and major life changes, and gradually teaches him how to live each moment with gusto, optimism, and love. On the program, I'm joined with Jonathan Robinson, who is both a psychotherapist and best-selling author of 10 books and a professional speaker from Northern California. He's reached more than 200 million people around the world with his practical methods, and his work has been translated into 47 languages. Jonathan, thank you for being back here on the Beyond 50 radio program.
Thanks, Daniel. I'm looking forward to this.
Now, I think one of the most wonderful things about a book like this is that there are ways that you can begin to help people open their eyes without giving advice or, kind of being that spiritual guru, so to speak, as you work through animals, because then people go, well, great, I want to listen to this because we've gotten the human factor out of the way. Great book here. Talk about how you came to write this novel here and sort of the events surrounding it.
Well, my history is as a writer. I've written a lot of self-help books, and I got to be on the Oprah show and all the other shows for some of my self-help books about happiness and love and things like that. But you know what? I don't usually read those books because I like novels. I like stories. So I thought I would, create an inspirational novel. And it ends up my dogs are very close to me. And they are always teaching me about love and forgiveness and how not to hold a grudge. And I just kind of tuned into their world, and out came this really interesting plot and really inspirational type of teachings about how to enjoy life because, I think the dogs I know have really enjoyed this pandemic even. Their owners are at home loving them.
Isn't that the truth? And in fact, for people, because we've seen, a lot of, on the harder side of things from the pandemic, deaths occurring that really had nothing to do with the actual sickness, but because of people being shut in, not being able to get out and connect with other people. And so if you had a pet, for many people, it probably was a lot easier for them.
Yeah, it was a lifesaver, really, because we need that love. We need the touch. You couldn't necessarily hug the people that you love in your life. And I know for my wife and I, our dogs were really, just made life so much more enjoyable. And they're pretty happy campers. They don't ask for much. And I think they're really, in a way, our new gurus. Gurus used to be here to teach us about love and peace. And I think dogs, a lot of dogs anyways, really show us that and show us that life can be more than just, get up, go to work, watch TV, go to bed.
Of course, that wasn't so much the case with our dog, Bodie, who passed away about 3 weeks ago because he was that kind of dog that laid around a lot. Mm-hmm. He was a pug and he was a magnificent animal, but there was one thing that I was telling friends of mine. I said, he really was a very unique dog in that I just didn't think he was a dog. There was something right. different about him. And, out in public, one of the things that I noticed that I had never seen in any dog that I had ever been with, and in the case of a lot of other people who own dogs, is he drew people to him. I mean, he drew smiles. Sometimes we would take the bus to go to downtown Portland when we used to live up in the Northwest, and you'd see people get on the bus, and they were just in bad moods. But as soon as they seen Bodie, they would just light up, and people would do that constantly. You'd hear people, we would be downtown from across the street say, hey, can I pet your dog? But they were across the street. You just don't see that kind of stuff. Usually, there's a dog. But Bodie was one that just drew people to him. And I was telling my wife, I said, there's something more here. But that's the case. You can see that a lot of times in animals, that certain spiritual sense that just draws, and it's just quite amazing.
Yeah, and there's studies that show that dogs pretty much are as effective as psychotherapists in healing people. And they don't have to go to 8 years of schooling like I did, and or graduate school. In our local hospital, we have therapy dogs, and they really do a great job of healing people. And there's studies that show that if people in hospitals have access to a therapy dog, a dog that they can love and pet, that they actually get out of the hospital more quickly and heal more quickly than people who do not have access to therapy dogs. And people who own dogs live longer than people who don't. I mean, basically, if a dog were a pill, it would be like a magic pill. They make you live longer. People with dogs are happier, and there's a lot of really great benefits to having a dog or a cat. Some people are cat people, but I think that it's really an undervalued resource that we have this great bond with this species that we serve and they serve us in a way that's really beautiful.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Now let's talk about how this dog came to be in the character's life, and I believe it was Mr. Mosley, who was an accountant. So let's talk about who he was, what was going on in his life, and then all of a sudden, here was this animal coming into his life.
Well, in Mr. Mosley's life, he had just experienced a divorce and had gotten addicted to alcohol and took too many sleeping pills and ended up in a hospital. And we don't talk about it much in America, but we have the largest percentage of population of any country on earth killing themselves. That's not a good sign. When you have a so-called rich country, America, where you get, 60, 70,000 suicides a year, and that's separate from the 90,000 people who end up overdosing on opioids. There's something wrong with how we kind of try to be happy in this culture, or what I call this culture of America. And what's really important to people is love and peace and contribution, and those things really aren't talked about very much. But if there's any animal that's really focused on love and play, which is the other thing that dogs do really well, then it's great to have that little guru in your house and reminding you every day. Let's go for a walk. Let's take a nap. Let's just sit on the couch and hug and rub my belly.
Now, it's what's also fascinating too is that this dog begins to communicate with the owner, sort of, I guess, psychically. What's going on there?
Yeah, he prays to God that he could learn to be as happy as his dog, whose name is Happy. And the next day, he finds that he's hearing Happy's thoughts in his head. And at first he thinks he's going bananas, but he decides to just kind of listen. And Happy is really trying to teach him to be happier in life and to not be so judgmental and to play more and things like that. And, this is not that far from the truth. It is a fictional story. But, I've seen people go through hard times where their dog really does heal them. And I actually hired a dog psychic, which is a real career. I mean, I live in California, so anything's possible. But I had a psychic come in, and she told me what my dogs were trying to tell me, and she was incredibly accurate about everything about what these dogs do and how I felt that they were trying to communicate with me. So I got a lot of information from dog psychics, and that ended up being part of the story. But in the story, this dog basically tries to teach his owner how to enjoy life again, and a lot of people going through midlife crises or going through the crisis of the pandemic or just being caught up with responsibilities, sometimes we forget about what's really important in life.
Well, there's also a lot of people telling us what they believe is important for us in our lives.
Yeah, that's true.
And it could really drive a person crazy when it comes down to that. And then, when you have this wonderful animal that you're caring for and taking care of, it's kind of really funny because I see it a lot, what I would kind of call projection. It's actually people learning by drawing out through the animal how to take care of themselves.
Yeah, yeah. And your boss or your mate might be wanting you to clean the house or to work extra hours. Your dog really just wants you to, take a nap with him or her, go for a walk and play and love them. I mean, those are different priorities than what humans usually want from us, and I think those priorities actually lead people to having a more enjoyable life.
So now let's talk about, for instance, I know there was a situation in there when the dog had been, I guess, adopted, but then the original owner seemed to come back into the scene. What was going on there?
Well, there's various, we all have, we're all in a story somewhere in our lives. Like we're in a movie and everybody has challenges. And the way we deal with challenges usually is through, feeling self-pity, lashing out and blaming other people. But dogs don't do that. In this case, this dog had been through a lot. Her previous owner had abused her, physically. And so from her perspective, she talks about, why she doesn't hold a grudge. He's not abusing me now. He's actually very loving this minute. Why would I hold a grudge about something that happened a year ago, And so, when you look at how an animal might look at the world, it's really different than how humans look at the world. I want to accentuate that, for a dog, love and bonding is the most important thing. They're not worried about taxes. They're not worried about coronavirus. They're just worried about, am I enjoying this moment or not? And I think we need that. And what happens in the story is that she kind of teaches her owner how to forgive and how to love again just by her example. And I think in today's world, we need more examples. We don't have that many heroes, and the ones that we have are often, media moguls or they're billionaires. And that, I mean, no matter what your politics is, when it came to President Trump, here's a guy who's a billionaire and the most powerful person on earth, but whether you liked him or not, you wouldn't say that he was really happy. He never looked like he was really having a great time. And so money and power really aren't the way for human beings to thrive. My dogs are thriving, and they don't have any money or power. And I think that being open to those lessons, which Happy actually goes through various techniques to teach her owner about enjoying life.
Now, as people are listening to this, it's funny because I also tend to hear owners who seem to talk at their animals rather than really attuning to them. Mm-hmm. So what would you suggest that people can do to really start, really being in the moment, really seeing and understanding and knowing their animals?
Yeah, it's a great question. First of all, it starts with the intention that, we think that we're at the top. We think, as human beings, we're at the top of the food chain and we're the most evolved. But, I had the good fortune at one time to talk to the Dalai Lama. And I asked him, what's the purpose of, well, actually, I did a book in which I talked to a lot of spiritual leaders, everybody from Mother Teresa to the Dalai Lama to, I don't know who you know, Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer. I talked to 100 spiritual leaders. And I'd always ask them, so what's the meaning and purpose of life? And what was interesting to me is that these 100 people, some Jewish, some Christian, some Muslim, some atheists, some, the whole gamut, their answers were incredibly similar. And because people are listening to me and you, I thought I'd tell you what the 100 spiritual leaders said was the meaning of life. Are you ready?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. They basically all said the same thing. It was that there's two things to do in life. One is to find peace and love inside yourself. Jesus called it the kingdom of heaven. The Buddha called it your Buddha nature. But it's really finding peace and love inside yourself as best you can. And then step two is to share that, or from your abundance, help other people and help other animals and help the earth, make a contribution. Now, when you think about it, most dogs I know are much better at feeling love and being loved and getting love than most of the people I know. So why not learn from them? They might actually know more about this subject than I do. So that is a way that you can just become interested and realize that this being may have some things that you don't. Now, we can create food out of a can, which I'm sure seems amazing to them. Or, we can do
I
other
remember a
things.
Jerry Seinfeld bet on that when you go to the drive-thru and the dog just looks at you like, instant food? How is that possible?
Yeah, this is amazing, and in the book, Happy calls her owner Master Mark, because anybody that can create food out of a can must be some master in some ways. But, let's say any 2-year-old in a certain way knows more about play than you and I. I just went to play tennis yesterday. And, I like to play tennis, but the 3 other people I was playing with weren't so much playing tennis as they were competing at tennis.
Right.
They weren't having a good time. In fact, one of them threw his racket down and stormed off the court. And I said, well, gee, this person really could really use a ball and a dog and learn how to play again. So I think just the desire or the humility to be able to learn from animals is good. We have a cat as well, and the cat is really very into its body. It stretches a lot. It does all kinds of things. So I'm trying to learn about yoga and stretching from my cat. And I think that there's a lot to learn if you have that sincere desire. And then you just kind of tune into them and look at them and let them lead the way. When we go for a walk, I let my dogs lead the way. And they sometimes, I don't take them for a walk, they take me for a walk. And sometimes we go and meet new people and have a good time, and I would probably stay on my own, but just allowing myself to be humble and let them lead the way sometimes has been a step in that direction.
Now, when you think about sometimes that there are situations, as I've been to like pet and companion fairs, where you see animals have been actually rescued because of abuse, are they forgiving, especially if they get new owners?
It can take some time to trust a new owner, but usually not a lot of time. It can be done often in a couple of months, whereas I'm a psychotherapist. Sometimes to teach a human being to trust again when they've been abused, it can take years. So in a way, dogs can heal faster because they don't hold on to things the way humans do. A former dog I had half his liver taken out, major surgery. And 3 days later, he's up and running. And I asked the vet, is this normal? And he said, well, if you did this to a human being, they would be in bed for 4 months. But dogs don't have an idea like, oh, I've been sick and I need to stay in bed. They just like, yeah, I feel like moving now, so I'll move. And that sense of being in the moment is something that I think as human beings we sometimes lose, and dogs can remind us. I think of my dog as an alarm clock to remind me about love and play and naps. In fact, at the end of the book, I asked Happy, my dog, to give me the 10 commandments for a joyous life. I can tell you what those are according to a dog.
Absolutely.
Number one, explore and enjoy whatever is in front of you in this moment. Dogs do that pretty well. Number two, eat with gusto. My dogs definitely do that. Number three, love everyone you meet as long as they don't try to bite you. And number four, make sure you pee in lots of different locations. You know, this year we haven't been able to do that with the virus, but
Absolutely not.
hopefully I'm looking forward to doing that in the next year. Number five, play every single day and chew on things as much as you can. Number six, whenever possible, take a nap. Number seven, ask directly for belly rubs and whatever affection you desire. I love how my dog does that. You know, if she wants affection, she just comes right up and you know, I'm ready. You know, and wouldn't it be nice if we could do that with each other? Hey, I really need some love now. Are you available? I like the directness of dogs. Number eight, never hold a grudge. Each moment is new. Number nine, stop and smell the roses as well as everything else. And number 10, greet those you love with great enthusiasm when they come home. I don't know about you, but I love coming home because my dogs go crazy. You know, I can go to my car and forget, you know, and come back home. You know, it's a 30-foot walk, and by the time I'm go to my car and come back home, my dogs are once again thrilled to see me.
Now, the one thing we haven't talked about is that Happy actually came to a point where he lost one of his legs.
Yeah, yeah, and I actually had a dog that did do that, and what was interesting was how it didn't seem to bother him. You know, I mean, he had to learn how to walk with this artificial leg, which took a couple weeks, but it seemed like it never really affected him. And I was kind of wanting to put that in the plot that, you know, we all have challenges, whether it be the virus or money or divorce or whatever it is, but it doesn't have to define you. And Happy kind of describes, well, you know, I can still do most things, and the most important things being that I can love people. And in fact, a handicapped dog is actually better at getting people to feel, you know, in their hearts. So for her, it was like a boon that she's now even more effective at opening up human beings' hearts. So we look at things. Well, here's an interesting thing, Daniel. They did a study and they found out that they separated two groups of people: people who had won over $1 million in the lottery in the previous year, and people who had become paralyzed from the waist down in the previous year. Which group of people do you think was happier?
I would probably say the paralyzed group.
Well, in reality, they were both equally happy. Because in a certain way, it doesn't matter what happens in your life as much as your attitude towards what happens. And so, you know, the happy people who won a lot of money continue to be happy. The miserable people who won a lot of money continue to be miserable. And the same with the paralyzed people. So, you know, we're always focused on trying to get more money or a better relationship and thinking that that difference will make us happy. But really what makes people feel good about their lives is their attitude, their relationships with other people, and the amount of love and play that they have in their life. And those are things that we rarely focus on.
I think you really hit it on the head, too. I think that a lot of times humans just take life way too seriously, you know. And I'm sure that's what our animals, our wonderful companions, teach us is just take it easy.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it so much, you know, that sort of a thing. And so it's pretty amazing when you think about the actual way that people should be learning these lessons, and there it is in front of you every single day, and so when that time comes too that you end up losing your companions as we did, you just can feel that. But then as the pain seems to fade, you begin seeing and experiencing more of the happy times that you guys actually had together.
Hmm.
And that's really a unique lesson in and of itself when it comes to grieving.
Yeah, and it's so hard to lose an animal. In fact, a lot of people are confused because when they lose an animal, they sometimes feel more grief than when they lost, like, a parent.
And that's a
Um,
fact. I hear that a lot. And
yeah.
it's really interesting because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine probably about a week or so ago, and bringing that up. And it's kind of hard when you talk about it at times, and the tear comes to the eye. But you feel yourself like, but I want to allow this to happen.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
she had said something that I thought was really unique because I knew exactly what she was talking about. She says, I feel the memory of my dog fading, and I don't want it to. And so I
Mhm.
said, well, is it because you feel, because this was my thoughts, is I don't want it to fade because I don't want, for instance, Bodie in our case, to think that I've forgotten about him.
Mhm. Mhm.
you know, and she says, "Yeah, that's exactly what it is."
Yeah.
We just knew that. You know? So, and I think in that is that we probably just came to a place that we agreed that it seems that they brought more to our lives than perhaps we've given them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a great lesson of love, when you realize that. In the book, Happy is trying to teach her owner about love, and she says there's a law of love, and the law of love is you love whatever you take care of. And somehow, in a certain way, we really do take care of our animals, and it creates a great heart-opening connection. And in another way, when I'm sad or my wife is sad, our animals take care of us. They really are empathetic, and we really crave empathy and understanding. And sometimes the humans in our life are too blocked or busy to give us that, but animals can give us that, and it's really like a life-affirming vitamin that we all need.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, I think people will find this to be a wonderful book. There's a lot that you can actually, that we haven't talked about in here, but we've certainly shared what I think could be one of the many themes in the book, Conversations with Doug, Adventures of a Four-Legged Guru. Jonathan, thank you so much. And is there a place people can find out more about your work and perhaps how they can get the book?
Well, of course, the easiest way is to get it on Amazon, and it's a bestseller, so that makes it easier to find. But I have a website called findinghappiness.com, and people can get what I call the 12 questions to instant intimacy by putting in their email there so that they can bring a little bit more love into their life. But my website's findinghappiness.com.
Well, very good. Jonathan, thank you for joining us back on the show today. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too, Daniel.
Good stuff. Thank you
Yeah,
again.
you too. Okay.
We want
Goodbye.
to thank you, the listeners out there, for tuning in. Again, the book is Conversations with Doug, Adventures of a Four-Legged Guru, and our guest joining us, Jonathan Robinson. You can also discover more at beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. We do encourage you to sign up for our weekly e-newsletter and stay up to date with what's going on in the world of Beyond 50, as well as our upcoming shows. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for joining us. This is the Beyond 50 radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.